very much for joining us on Money Control. Mr. Sinha, I just want to start by asking you, in your previous interview to our Network 18, you said that, there needs to be a balance between innovation and regulation. Based on everything that we've heard and seen in the last few days, it clearly seems like the government is keen to, tread the middle path. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman spoke about how they are working on a bill which will be presented to the cabinet. Today, she also spoke about how we need a global mechanism for this. So, would it be fair to assume that there's not going to be an outright ban? The government will take a more progressive approach.
The government will certainly seek to balance regulation and innovation. How that will be done, we will see once the bill is introduced.
Right. Mr. Sinha, there is also a cabinet note that has been, widely reported between yesterday and today, which talks about how the government will not ban private cryptocurrencies, but it will regulate it, and that this will come under the ambit of SEBI. I know, that this needs to be verified, it needs to be formally placed, but would that be the best case scenario for cryptocurrencies to be regulated, to come under the ambit of SEBI? Technically speaking, would that be the ideal regulator?
Cabinet notes are confidential, and it would not be appropriate at all for me to speculate on their contents. We do swear an oath of secrecy when we take public office, so it would be entirely inappropriate to comment on any confidential matters. As I said, the goal is to balance regulation and innovation. Obviously, the potential from distributed ledger technology, blockchain, and the entire crypto ecosystem is very, very substantial. There's no question about it. And the underlying technology has many purposes and many very valuable functions that it can provide. Now, how that should be implemented in the Indian context is exactly the fine line that this bill, I'm sure, will try and balance and will address. But let's recognize, as we heard when industry stakeholders came and presented to us at the Standing Committee, that some 1.5 crore, 15 million Indians are transacting. Actually, let me take that back, not 15 million unique Indians, but 15 million accounts, they told us, have been opened, and that the outstanding value of various different crypto tokens is now 6 billion, which is a very substantial number. So we do have to find a way in which we can harness the power of this technology and ensure that India is able to be a world leader in these kinds of technologies as well. So I think that is the balancing act that I'm sure the bill will undertake.
Right. In fact, Mrs. Sinha, I was just coming to that. Following your meeting with stakeholders last month, I think you had also asked them for some clarifications, for some questions. Have they submitted their responses? If you can tell us a little on that in terms of your own questions to these exchanges.
So we had a number of probing questions that we asked industry stakeholders, and we asked them to provide us in writing their responses. This was over a week ago. But we have not, to the best of my knowledge, got a formal response back from the industry yet. So we are awaiting, their views on how best regulation would work from their perspective. So we are still waiting for that. But again, as I said, the industry has grown very rapidly in India, and therefore, we have to be very thoughtful about what our path forward should be.
Absolutely, sir. Mr. Sinha, I also want to ask you, there seems to be a dichotomy between how the government, North Block, Finance Ministry views crypto and the RBI's own stance. I mean, the government is more open-minded, but if you look at RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das, he's repeatedly stressed that, this is a deeper issue, it is a concern. So is this going to be a very hard tightrope walk for the government to also take into account the central bank's concerns in this issue?
There are many important perspectives that do have to be balanced as this legislation is brought forward. And many of the key stakeholders have already expressed their views on what they see as both the positives and the negative of these crypto technologies. As I've said, the potential and the benefits are very substantial. That's the innovation side of the story. The regulation side of the story is that there are significant downsides and risks as well. And so they have to be balanced through the regulatory process. So, we can discuss all of those at length, but at the end of the day, we have to really wait for the bill to be introduced to understand exactly how the government has chosen to exercise this balance. And I will make a distinction between the executive side of our democratic system and the legislative side. The government, the finance ministry, the Reserve Bank of India, all of them represent the executive side of our democratic system. And what I and other members of the Standing Committee on Finance represent is the legislative side. So when we formulate a law for the crypto ecosystem, this is an initiative. This is the responsibility of the executive. They formulate the law. It is then placed in Parliament, where it then becomes something that has to become part of the legislative process, which is where the Standing Committee and all of us as members of Parliament start to get involved. So we are still at the stage where the executive is formulating its position. The executive is looking to balance all of these different aspects of the crypto ecosystem. And once that takes form, once that takes the shape of a proposed legislation, that's when the legislative branch gets involved.
Right. When can we expect this bill to be introduced, Mrs. Sinha? And also a lot of questions on why the government is not placing this in the public domain, because it's only causing a lot of uncertainty, panic among investors. A lot of it is buzz which cannot be verified. So will the government consider placing this in the public domain, open to all stakeholders?
So as I just explained, I'm a member of the legislative branch, not the executive branch, right? So these are questions. These are questions that are best answered by the executive branch, which is the Ministry of Finance, which is responsible for this legislation. Again, as I said, I'm part of the legislative branch, and our work begins once the legislation is placed in Parliament, once the law is introduced. So these questions that you're asking really are questions that the executive branch, the ministry should really be asked about.
Right. The other view that's coming on crypto and blockchain is that, blockchain technology is not something entirely new. It's been there for a decade. So the government can harness the underlying technology without private cryptocurrencies. What do you make of this? This is something that the RBI governor has also said. Today we heard Mukesh Ambani saying this as well, that, I support blockchain, but that is different from supporting or being bullish on cryptocurrencies.
So we have to understand the underlying technology in this ecosystem. And like most modern day technologies, there are many layers to this stack, right? As you understand well. The foundational layer is the distributed ledger technology. It is the blockchain technology. And that can be utilized for many different use cases, many different applications. So that's the first and most foundational and bottom layer. And that, I think, should absolutely be utilized for all the different applications that have already been worked on in India. Then we come to the next layer up. And the next layer up is middleware. And in the middleware also, there are many different ways of doing it. Ethereum, for example, has taken a different set of decisions with respect to the middleware than Bitcoin has. And there, depending on how you set up your ecosystem, you can make many different decisions there. Now, once you decide on that middleware, then you actually get to the application layer or the use cases. Now, the use cases can be many, many different kinds of use cases. One use case is a virtual currency, if you will. Another use case is as a store of value, as an asset, a digital asset, if you will. There's a third use case, which is to use it for decentralized finance, as it's called. So depending on how you are setting up your use cases, the technology can be used very, very differently. But the foundation of the technology remains the blockchain, the distributed ledger technology, and that of course should be available for use for all these different applications. Some of these applications are more acceptable, and others are less acceptable, and that's where the role of regulation comes in.
Right. In terms of the taxation framework itself, is the current taxation framework equipped to handle cryptocurrency or crypto asset related finance? How will this pan out?
We have a very sophisticated taxation system in India, and we have dealt with many different kinds of instruments, some of which are securities, some of which are commodities, some of which are assets. So I think once we decide exactly what form we will allow these crypto tokens or these crypto coins to be used, then the appropriate taxation system can easily be applied. But that's where the regulation comes in, which is deciding which of those use cases is going to be available to us here in India. Once that decision is made, then the taxation system just snaps right into place.
And what would you say about concerns that, the current crypto frenzy that we are seeing has parallels with the tulip mania or, the unregulated chit funds where many people lost their money, that, we are in the throes of a bubble because there are 6,000 tokens today. Nobody knows, what will survive. Again, does that make regulation more difficult? Because, this is an issue that institutions globally are grappling with, be it the FATF, be it the IMF, and so on. So does that make it even more difficult, the fact that we seem to be in the throes of a crypto bubble?
I believe there are some 8,000 crypto tokens out there. So it's a bewilderingly large number. And of course, there's frenzied speculation about and for many of these different kinds of crypto tokens. And that is obviously a matter of great concern for all of us that deal with these issues, because there are many investors, particularly small investors, that do not fully understand how these crypto tokens work, and they need to properly understand them, and they need to be very sophisticated about how these are actually priced. And unfortunately, that level of investor education and investor protection is not available worldwide for these kinds of crypto tokens. So that is a matter of great concern. Investor protection is right on top of the list when it comes to the regulatory side of how we deal with this crypto ecosystem.
Right. And any global, models that will perhaps be suitable for India? For example, Japan has a self-regulatory mechanism. UAE and Bahrain have a regulatory sandbox where people, still report to official authorities. Even in India, when I speak to stakeholders in the crypto ecosystem, they are comfortable with a self-regulatory organization with government oversight. So which of these do you believe, is the optimum kind of model for India?
There are very good models that we should study and fully understand as far as the crypto ecosystem is concerned. And I'm sure the executive branch is studying them very closely. And when it comes time for us in Parliament to study it, we will also study it very closely. This, in fact, was one of the questions we asked stakeholders during our standing committee hearings. And we are hoping that they will come back to us with a detailed analysis of the different country models that are prevalent right now as far as crypto regulation is concerned. I think that will be very helpful inputs to all of us in the legislative as well as the executive branch.
Right. And any risks that, the government is particularly worried about, be it illicit finance, money laundering, macro stability risk, fiscal stability, any particular risks that you have perhaps, asked the crypto stakeholders, or that you will perhaps be watching closely? Investor protection, of course, is at the top of the list. But anything apart from that, the government is is watching closely?
You listed all of them. So you're absolutely right. Investor protection is right on top of the list, because people need to understand very clearly, what this particular crypto token is. They need to understand that there is in fact no intrinsic value, that this is a value that is set in the marketplace. And so they need to fully understand what crypto tokens are. So investor protection is absolutely key. And then, of course, we get to issues around illicit finance, hawala, subversion of capital controls, those set of issues that are very, very important. And then followed thereafter with issues around monetary policy, fiscal stability, systemic risk. Then all of those others come into play. But as I said, investor protection is right on top of the list. And then, the illicit finance type problems that we have been dealing with for many, many years. And which globally is something that all policymakers and regulators are very, very concerned with.
My final couple of questions. Nandan Nilekani made an interesting point yesterday that crypto assets could help in financial inclusion, bring financial services to more youngsters. Do you think it has a larger societal purpose, crypto assets?
I think crypto technologies are very, very powerful, and they can be applied in many different ways to the benefit of society. One of the great attributes of crypto technologies is that transaction costs can be kept very, very low, and the face value of these digital tokens can be very, very small. And that enables financial inclusion, exactly as Nandan Nilekani is pointing out. The other thing that these allow us to do is we can create, if you will, a metaverse or a digital world in India, and our own entrepreneurs and our own technologists can develop for that metaverse, for that digital world in India, set of crypto tokens that are available in India and that can be transacted and used in India as well. And those are the kinds of innovative applications that are possible with these technologies. And as we increasingly move more and more to digital transactions, to engaging with each other in the digital world, we will have to come up with these kinds of crypto technologies to be able to assess what value is and to be able to transact in a friction-free way.
Right. Final question to you. What would your message be for the millions of investors who are perhaps wary today and on tenterhooks? As a member of parliament, what would your message be to them?
I think the message to everyone is that we are absolutely on your side and we are looking out for your interests.
On that note, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Money Control Masterclass. Thank you very much for your time.